I am now dating Rochelle. I don't know if I believe in fate, but sometimes things just line up. When I first moved to Bloomington, I moved here for an ex-girlfriend, and it was not a great relationship, but I wouldn't take it back because I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about what I will tolerate and what I won't, and it brought me here. It came time to move. Our lease was coming up, and she was being really wishy-washy about if she was even going to stay in Bloomington, and my coworker said, she introduced me to the idea of the co-op. So I moved into the co-op, into Bloomington Cooperative Living. I lived there for 2 years, and my best friend in the co-op, her name was Miriam, she had a sister named Grace. And Grace introduced me to her friend Haley, who I dated very briefly, but Haley and I are still good friends. And Haley used to date and introduced me to Rochelle. And so I said to my coworker, I was like, you're the reason that I'm dating Rochelle, because I would have never moved into the co-op, never met Miriam, never met Grace, never met Haley, and I would have never met Rochelle. And so it's funny how things line up that way. We started out as friends, and she lives in St. Louis, so I kind of got this friend group together. I'm very much like a community builder, so I realized that there were like 5 lesbians in St. Louis I knew, and I made a Facebook group, and I'm like, okay, everybody, we're gonna hang out when I come into town, because I have family in Southern Illinois, and I decided to go visit, and we went to roller derby. I started making friends with these women. We talked all the time, and then I went for one of their birthdays, and we went out to a gay bar. That was the first time in person I had met Rochelle, and I had a big old crush that night. But I didn't want to say anything because I really appreciated this friend group, and I didn't want to like mess anything up. I went to a women's festival in the Ozarks that she was supposed to go to but got sick and couldn't go. But Emily was there, and Emily is Rochelle's best friend. And I was fast becoming really good friends with Emily. And I said to Emily, hey, I need to ask you about something, because I wanted to go to the best friend. And Emily's like, sure, what's up? And I said, I think I have a thing for Rochelle. But before I could finish, she went, go for it. And I was like, has she talked to you? And she's like, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you that, but I am gonna tell you to go for it. So that night I messaged her and I said, I really don't want to mess up this friend group. If it's not mutual, I won't make a thing out of it, I promise. But I feel like I should be honest, and I have a big old crush on you, and I really want to see where it might go. And she basically said that she'd felt the same way. And as our friendship had grown, that like she'd start to see potential for it. I think one of the most important things about entering this relationship was, before I entered into it for the first time in my life, I'd been okay with being single. And I, sort of how I talked about reimagining my life as a lesbian, I also made the decision to reimagine my life as a single person, and to say, what would it look like to age as a single person? What would it look like if I wanted kids as a single person? What would it look like to buy a house as a single person? And I started to really explore what my life could look like that. And when I did that, and started to get comfortable with that, and to think, oh, this is something I could do, and I could be happy like this. That's when she came into my life. And I think the biggest reason is because for the first time I wasn't desperate. I wasn't trying so desperately to like grasp onto the closest person who would say yes to me. Something my mom often said when I was growing up is, it takes an awfully good man to be better than none. But that's just true of partners. It takes an awfully good partner to be better than none, because being single is fun. It's fun to be able to do what you want when you want, and to have the world completely open to you and not have to, weigh out the consequences of that with another person. But with the right person, it's just as fun. I feel like I found the right person, because this is just as fun as being single was. I'm just as happy as I was. And when I picture the future of my life, I'm just as happy as that picture I'd sort of come to terms with, that involved being alone. And being alone was okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I wish more girls and women realize that, is that you don't have to settle down. There's no time frame that you have to accomplish these goals in. And once I settled into that, and once I got comfortable with that, and all the rush was gone and all the pressure was gone, I really just got to enjoy being in love. in a way that I never really had before. Lesbian love, I think, is unique. I think there's a lot of language that's like gay people, just like everybody else, but we're not. We're not just like everybody else. There's a reason I felt so different for so long, and that's okay. I'm not like everybody else, and I wasn't supposed to be ever.